Oil tanker shadowed by U.S. Navy appears to paint Russian flag on hull in desperate bid to avoid seizure. Maritime sanctions and geopolitics. An aging oil tanker being quietly trailed by U.S. authorities across the Atlantic Ocean has taken a dramatic and unusual step that American officials believe is a last-ditch attempt to shield itself from seizure, painting what appears to be a crude Russian flag directly onto its hull. The vessel, known as Bella 1, has been under U.S. scrutiny for months and has been actively pursued at sea for nearly 2 weeks after refusing to submit to Coast Guard boarding efforts. According to a U.S. official familiar with the operation, the improvised flag was recently spotted by Coast Guard personnel, maintaining visual contact roughly half a mile behind the tanker. Officials believe the hastily painted emblem is intended to signal Russian affiliation, a move that could complicate the legal and diplomatic framework governing any forced boarding or seizure. A slow-motion maritime standoff. The Bella 1 is no modern marvel. Rust streaks its hull, its exterior shows clear signs of age, and it has been operating under shifting or unclear registration for months. Yet despite its worn appearance, the ship has become the focus of an unusually prolonged maritime chase that has quietly unfolded across international waters. The standoff dates back to December 21st, when U.S. Coast Guard forces attempted to intercept the tanker as it sailed through the Caribbean Sea. At the time, officials believed the vessel was en route to Venezuela, where it was expected to load crude oil in violation of U.S. sanctions. Instead of complying, the tanker abruptly changed course, executing a U-turn that marked the beginning of a months-long evasion effort. Since then, Bella 1 has remained at sea, altering routes, avoiding ports, and resisting repeated U.S. efforts to board or detain it. The Russian flag gambit. The recent appearance of a Russian flag painted directly onto the side of the ship has raised eyebrows across the U.S. national security and maritime enforcement communities. According to American officials, the flag does not appear professionally rendered and is believed to have been painted by crew members themselves. There has been no formal confirmation that the ship is legally registered in Russia, nor that it has any official authorization to fly the Russian flag. Shipping databases currently list the Bella 1's registration status as unknown. When U.S. authorities first attempted to board the vessel, it was flying under a Guyana flag, which officials later determined was invalid. By attempting to claim Russian nationality, even symbolically, the crew may be hoping to introduce diplomatic ambiguity that could delay or deter U.S. action. Why the flag matters. Under international maritime law, the nationality of a vessel can significantly affect the legal authority of another country to board, seize, or detain it, especially in international waters. If the Bella 1 could plausibly claim Russian protection, even without proper documentation, U.S. officials would need to consider the potential geopolitical consequences of boarding a ship that visually presents itself as Russian-affiliated. While U.S. authorities have not accepted the claim, officials acknowledge that the maneuver adds a layer of complexity to an already delicate operation. Sanctions, Iran, and Venezuela. The Bella 1 is believed by U.S. officials to be part of a shadow fleet involved in transporting Iranian oil, a violation of American sanctions. The ship was also suspected of planning to load crude from Venezuela, whose oil sector remains heavily restricted under U.S. policy. The pursuit of the tanker is directly linked to a broader strategy ordered by President Trump, who has pushed for aggressive enforcement against sanctioned oil shipments. Administration officials view oil revenue as the primary economic lifeline for Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and believe that restricting tanker access is one of the most effective tools for weakening his government. A blockade without a declaration. While officials have used the term blockade to describe the policy, it is not a formal naval blockade under international law. Instead, it involves intensified surveillance, interdiction, and enforcement actions targeting vessels suspected of violating sanctions. 2 other oil tankers operating under similar circumstances reportedly submitted to U.S. boarding earlier this month, making Bella 1's refusal to comply particularly unusual. Officials say they are still unsure why the crew has chosen to continue fleeing rather than submitting to inspection. Prepared for force if ordered. Although U.S. officials no longer believe the tanker will return to Venezuela, assets remain positioned in case the White House orders another intent to seize the vessel. Such an operation would require deployment of a maritime special response team, a highly trained unit experienced in boarding non-compliant ships under hostile or uncertain conditions. For now, the pursuit continues at a slow pace across open waters, a geopolitical chess match playing out at sea. What happens next? There is growing speculation within the administration that the effort to seize the Bella 1 could eventually be abandoned if the legal and diplomatic costs outweigh the benefits. Still, until a final decision is made, the ship remains under watch, its crude, painted flag serving as a striking symbol of how far crews may go to avoid the reach of international sanctions.